Hello, I'm Clara and I'm going to talk about the different methods used in psychology to collect data for different studies. For example, case studies, naturalistic observations, and experimental methods. I'm going to start off discussing the experimental methods. These are usually carried out in labs, and the goal of these is to investigate the relationship between cause and effect. There is a high quantitative amount of research, which means that there is a lot of data which can later on be analyzed and tested against statistics. There is a high demand of control in this type of experiments because they are carried out in labs, so the variables are actually pretty easy to control, usually at least, so this isn't usually a problem. There are different types of experiments, such as laboratoric experiments, field experiments, and naturalistic experiments. And usually this type of method discusses only, deals with one specific question, which is then studied. And also, if this experiment that's carried out would be repeated, it has to be done really carefully, so nothing changes and the different trials can actually be compared to each other. The pros of this type of method of data collection is that it is very easy to control the variables, so the results are usually also very accurate. And also, this is one of the only and most accurate methods to investigate the relationship between cause and effect, because the variables are so controlled, and this is no problem to actually get accurate data. The cons of this type of data collection or of experiments is that the situation is usually artificial because it's carried out in labs, and therefore the participant might act differently than they would in their usual environment. And a good example for experimental research is an experiment carried out in 1969, which involved investigating the helping behavior in New York subways. So now I'm going to go on to naturalistic observations. These are carried out in natural environment, and they deal with behavior as it occurs in natural situations. And this type of study usually explains or helps to explain situations as they are in life or on a basic day. Usually they are guided, this type of method is guided by a research question, which identifies the thing that's investigated or the study that's carried out. The goal is to describe the meaning of the results rather than the cause of it or the effect it has. And the pros of this type of experiment is that it is the only way to investigate situations which couldn't be investigated in a lab because they would be too artificial or because it's just not possible. And it also minimizes the concern of artificiality. And the cons of this type of experiments are that the variables are really hard to control, so the data might not be as accurate as the researcher would want it to be. And participants also might react or behave differently since they know or feel that they are watched, so they want to give a good impression or something like that. A good example for naturalistic observations is Darwin's study of evolution or his or natural selection. And now I'm going to go on to statistics, to case studies. Okay, so lastly I'm going to talk about the case studies. These were primarily used in clinical medicine and involve taking the history of a patient to form a diagnosis. It is based on real-life situations, and therefore it can provide a rich amount of data. The researcher usually concentrates on investigating the behavior of an individual or of a group, and he or she also um, concentrates on the facts that could limit the results, such as memory problems, and also on factors that could just simply change the results, such as feelings, experiences, and thoughts about the topic that is being studied. The pros of this type of investigations are that the topic, to investigate the topic and to get relevant results, you only need a small sample of a population, or you only need a few participants to get relevant results. And also, it's possible to form different perspectives by looking at feelings, beliefs, impressions, and interpretation. And the cons of this type of method to collect data are that it can't be replicated because of the uniqueness of the case, and also that that the results can't be generalized to the to a greater population because of this uniqueness, and therefore the results aren't representative to a whole population. An example for a case study is a case study carried out by Corkin in 1987, which discussed the relationships between, which investigated the relationship between brain damage and memory function. So I want to thank you for listening, and I hope this was helpful and that I actually didn't stumble out and that I didn't say stuff that often, although I think I did. So I guess I'll hear from you guys, and bye-bye.